Hey everyone. Today we dive into one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, the story of a discovery so incredible that it rewrote everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. What's going on, everyone? Today we uncover the mind-bending truth behind a device that shouldn't exist, a machine so advanced that when scientists first saw it, they thought it had to be a hoax. Welcome back. Today we explore the impossible artifact that is the Antikythera mechanism, the world's first computer built over 2,000 years ago. The incredible story of this ancient machine reads like science fiction, but every word is true. What really happened when Greek sponge divers made the discovery of a lifetime has implications that shake our understanding of human achievement. The unbelievable events surrounding this bronze mystery will make you question everything you think you know about the capabilities of ancient civilizations. Everything you think you know about the linear progress of human technology is about to change, because the story they never told you about ancient Greek engineering is stranger than fiction. So before we dive in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now get comfortable, grab something to drink, and let's experience this incredible story together, because we're about to witness one of the most remarkable detective stories in the history of science. A tale that spans over a century and involves underwater treasure hunters, brilliant scientists working like detectives, and revelations that will completely change how you see the ancient world. Picture this scene. It's October 1900, and the Mediterranean Sea is churning with autumn storms off the coast of Crete. The wind howls across the whitecaps as Captain Dimitrios Kondos grips the wheel of his diving vessel. The eyes of his crew fixed on him as they ride out the tempest. These aren't ordinary fishermen battling the elements. Kondos and his men are some of the most skilled and fearless deep-sea divers in the world, professionals who risk their lives diving to bone-crushing depths that would kill most people, all to harvest the natural sponges that wealthy Europeans prize for their luxurious baths. The crew comes from the island of Simi, a rocky outpost in the Dodecanese where families have passed down the dangerous art of sponge diving for generations. These men descend into the crushing darkness wearing primitive copper helmets and canvas suits, breathing air pumped down through rubber hoses, facing depths where nitrogen narcosis can cause deadly hallucinations and where equipment failure means certain death. They're the descendants of legendary divers who once worked the sponge beds of North Africa, men so skilled they could stay underwater for hours, navigating the underwater landscape by touch and instinct. As the storm rages above, Captain Kondos makes a decision that will change the course of history. Rather than waste precious diving days waiting out the weather, he decides his crew will explore the unfamiliar waters around a small, rocky island called Antikythera. The island sits strategically between Crete and the Greek mainland, a barren piece of limestone that has served as a navigation landmark for thousands of years. Ancient ships used Antikythera as a waypoint on the treacherous journey between the Greek islands and Rome, and Kondos figures the waters around such a well-traveled route might harbor unexplored sponge beds. It's a routine decision, the kind these professional divers make dozens of times each season as they search for new harvesting grounds. None of them have any idea they're about to stumble into the archaeological discovery of the century, a find so extraordinary that it will occupy the world's brightest minds for the next 120 years. Elias Stadiatos, one of Kondos's most experienced divers, volunteers for the first exploration dive. At 35, Stadiatos has been diving the Mediterranean for nearly 2 decades. He's survived equipment failures, decompression sickness, and encounters with sharks. His body bears the scars of a lifetime spent in the crushing depths, but his nerve and skill are legendary among the sponge diving community. As he straps on his heavy copper helmet and checks the connections on his air hose, Stadiatos has no idea he's about to make one of the most important discoveries in the history of underwater archaeology. The primitive diving equipment of 1900 is a death trap by modern standards. Stadiatos wears a canvas diving suit that offers little protection from the cold or pressure. His copper helmet weighs 40 pounds and fogs constantly, limiting his vision to a few feet in any direction. The air pumped down to him by hand-operated compressors on the surface is often contaminated with carbon monoxide from the ship's engine. Many divers die from equipment failure, and even more suffer permanent injury from decompression sickness, known to the Greeks as the bends or simply the sickness. But these dangers are part of daily life for the sponge divers. Stadiatos descends into the blue-black depths following the weighted anchor line, his movements slow and deliberate in the crushing pressure. The water around Antikythera is crystal clear, with visibility extending much farther than in the murky coastal waters where the divers usually work. As he sinks deeper, the sunlight fades from brilliant blue to deep indigo to an alien twilight that exists nowhere else on Earth. At nearly 200 feet below the surface, Stadiatos reaches the rocky bottom and begins his search for sponges. The seafloor around Antikythera is a dramatic landscape of limestone cliffs and sandy valleys, carved by millennia of currents and tides. Natural sponges grow in the protected crevices of the rock formations, and Stadiatos moves methodically across the bottom, his trained eye searching for the telltale shapes and textures that indicate a good harvest. But when Stadiatos rounds a large boulder and enters a sandy depression on the seafloor, he doesn't find sponges. Instead, his eyes adjust to reveal something that makes his blood run cold and sends a shock of terror through his nervous system. Scattered across the ocean floor, emerging from the sand like the remnants of an underwater battlefield, are human bodies. Arms reaching up toward the surface, legs twisted in the sand, faces staring up at him through the eternal gloom. He's discovered what looks like an underwater graveyard, a mass death scene preserved in the perpetual darkness of the deep sea. The sight is so horrifying that Stadiatos' first instinct is to flee. His heart pounds inside the confining helmet as he struggles to process what he's seeing. Bodies don't preserve in seawater, especially not at these depths. Fish, crabs, and other scavengers should have reduced any corpses to scattered bones decades ago. Yet here are what appear to be perfectly preserved human forms, arranged across the seafloor like the victims of some ancient catastrophe. Terrified and disoriented, Stadiatos signals frantically to be pulled up, yanking repeatedly on his safety line in the emergency pattern that tells the surface crew to haul him up immediately. The ascent from 200 feet takes agonizing minutes as the surface crew carefully manages his decompression to prevent the bends. When Stadiatos finally breaks the surface, gasping and shaking inside his copper helmet, he tells Captain Kondos about the bodies, describing the horrible scene below in breathless, frightened words. But Captain Kondos is skeptical of his diver's report. Nitrogen narcosis, known to divers as the rapture of the deep, often causes vivid and terrifying hallucinations at depths beyond 150 feet. The condition affects different divers in different ways, but visual hallucinations are common, especially when combined with the stress and isolation of deep diving. Kondos has seen strong men surface convinced they've encountered sea monsters, mermaids, or underwater cities, only to discover later that their nitrogen-impaired brains had transformed ordinary rocks or coral formations into fantastic visions. Stadiatos insists his report is accurate, but Kondos remains doubtful. The captain has too much experience with the psychological effects of deep diving to accept such an extraordinary claim without verification. He decides to investigate personally, suiting up in his own diving gear to see what really lies on the bottom near Antikythera. As an experienced captain, Kondos is also a skilled diver, though he rarely makes working dives anymore, preferring to supervise his crew from the surface. What Captain Kondos discovers when he descends to the seafloor will launch one of the most important archaeological expeditions in history and forever change our understanding of ancient maritime trade and technology. Those aren't bodies that Stadiatos saw scattered across the ocean floor. They're statues, bronze and marble statues, life-size sculptures of gods, heroes, athletes, and mythological creatures scattered across the seabed like broken toys, discarded by some giant child. The realization hits Kondos like a physical blow. He's looking at the wreck of an ancient ship, and not just any ship, but a vessel loaded with what appears to be the greatest collection of ancient art ever discovered in one place. Bronze horses rear on their hind legs, frozen in eternal motion. Marble figures of gods and goddesses lie partially buried in the sand, their perfect features still visible after centuries underwater. Amphorae, the large ceramic jars used to transport wine and oil in the ancient world, are scattered among the statues, some still intact despite their long submersion. Captain Kondos surfaces with proof of his incredible discovery. A bronze arm from a statue, green with the patina of age and encrusted with marine growth, but unmistakably the work of a master sculptor. The craftsmanship is extraordinary, with every muscle and tendon rendered in perfect anatomical detail. The bronze itself feels heavy and substantial, clearly made from high-quality metal by artisans who understood their craft completely. The implications hit Kondos immediately as he examines the artifact on deck. This isn't just a shipwreck, It's a treasure ship, carrying cargo so valuable that it could make his entire crew wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. But here's where the story takes its first incredible turn, and where we see the character of the Greek people shine through in an unexpected way. When Captain Kondos reports his discovery to the Greek authorities, he doesn't try to hide the find or exploit it for personal gain. Despite the obvious financial value of the cargo, despite the fact that 19th century salvage laws would have allowed him to claim much of the treasure as his own, Kondos immediately contacts the Greek government and reports the discovery as a matter of national importance. The Greek government's response is equally remarkable. Rather than treating the wreck as a simple treasure recovery operation, they recognize the incredible historical significance of the find and decide to launch the world's first major underwater archaeological expedition. This decision represents a revolutionary approach to underwater discovery, prioritizing scientific knowledge over monetary gain at a time when most underwater salvage was conducted purely for profit. The government assigns the project to the Greek Archaeological Service and provides funding for a proper scientific expedition. They bring in experienced archaeologists from the University of Athens, hire additional sponge divers to assist with the recovery work, and establish protocols for documenting and preserving everything brought up from the wreck. It's an unprecedented commitment to underwater archaeology, decades before such expeditions become routine. For 10 months from November 1900 to September 1901, teams of divers work in rotating shifts to recover the ship's cargo. The conditions are incredibly dangerous, even by the standards of professional sponge divers. The wreck lies at the maximum depth that can be safely reached with the diving equipment of 1900, and the strong currents around Antikythera make every dive a battle against the elements. The divers work in shifts of just 20 minutes on the bottom, limited by the amount of air their primitive compressors can provide and the risk of decompression sickness from longer exposures. The human cost of the expedition is severe. Elias Stadiatos, the diver who made the original discovery, suffers a severe case of decompression sickness during one of his recovery dives and is permanently paralyzed from the waist down. Another diver, Georgios Kritikos, dies when his airline becomes tangled in the wreckage and he's unable to surface before his air supply runs out. These men pay with their bodies and lives for the privilege of recovering humanity's lost heritage, demonstrating a dedication to discovery that goes far beyond mere treasure hunting. But the artifacts they bring to the surface justify every risk and sacrifice. The cargo of the Antikythera wreck represents the greatest collection of ancient Greek and Roman art ever recovered from a single site. Life-sized bronze horses, their manes flowing in eternal gallops, emerge from the depths still bearing traces of their original gilding. Marble statues of gods and heroes, some standing over 6 feet tall, are lifted from their sandy graves with their perfect proportions intact. Bronze portrait busts of unknown Romans, their faces rendered with such realism that they seem ready to speak, are carefully brought to the surface and documented. The quality and quantity of the artwork suggests this was no ordinary merchant vessel. The cargo appears to represent the private art collection of someone incredibly wealthy and powerful, possibly a Roman general or politician who had looted Greek temples and sanctuaries during the Roman conquest of Greece. The artistic styles span several centuries, suggesting the collection had been assembled over time, perhaps representing the accumulated treasures of multiple generations of Roman collectors. Julius Caesar himself is a prime suspect as the original owner of this collection. Historical records show that Caesar looted enormous quantities of Greek art during his campaigns, and the time frame of the wreck coincides with the period when Caesar was transporting treasures from his conquered territories back to Rome. The ship may have been carrying part of Caesar's personal collection when it foundered in the treacherous waters around Antikythera. Among all these priceless statues and golden artifacts, the excavation team recovers something that initially appears unremarkable: a corroded lump of bronze and wood, roughly the size of a shoebox, so encrusted with marine growth that it's barely recognizable as an artificial object. The recovery team catalogs it simply as bronze object, heavily corroded, and ships it off to the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, along with all the other finds. For months, this unassuming lump sits forgotten in the museum's storage room, while scholars focus their attention on the obviously valuable statues and artwork. The discovery of what this corroded mass actually contains happens almost by accident, in a moment that perfectly illustrates how the most important discoveries often come from the most unexpected sources. As the mysterious bronze object dries out in the museum's storage room, the different rates of expansion and contraction between the ancient metal and the limestone-like marine incrustation cause internal stresses that eventually crack the outer shell. A museum worker, conducting routine inventory of the stored artifacts, notices that the break has revealed something that makes no sense whatsoever. Inside this ancient, corroded lump are intricate bronze gears, not simple wheels or decorative elements, but precisely cut mechanical gears with dozens of teeth, arranged in complex relationships that suggest this object was once a sophisticated calculating machine. The gears are clearly ancient, bearing the same patina and corrosion as the outer casing, but they represent a level of mechanical sophistication that historians insist didn't exist until the Renaissance, more than 1,000 years after the Antikythera wreck. The initial reaction from the scientific community is exactly what you'd expect when confronted with evidence that contradicts fundamental assumptions about the past. He said this has to be a mistake. Ancient Greeks didn't build complex mechanical devices. They couldn't have. The gear train visible inside this corroded mass represents technology that simply didn't exist in the ancient world. The first response from many experts is that this device must be much newer, perhaps a medieval astrolabe or clockwork mechanism that somehow got mixed in with the ancient artifacts during the recovery process. But the evidence for the device's ancient origin is overwhelming and impossible to dismiss. The bronze shows the same distinctive green patina that forms only after centuries of submersion in seawater. The marine incrustation is identical to that found on all the other undoubtedly ancient objects recovered from the wreck. Wood fragments embedded in the mechanism show the characteristic degradation patterns of wood that has been underwater for millennia. Most conclusively, radiocarbon dating of organic materials associated with the device confirms beyond any doubt that this mechanism was built in ancient Greece, sometime around 100 BC, and went down with the ship over 2,000 years ago. So what exactly is this thing? That question would consume some of the brightest minds in archaeology, engineering, and the history of science for the next century. The visible gears are clearly part of some kind of calculating device. But calculating what and how could ancient Greeks, working with hand tools and oil lamps, create mechanical precision that wouldn't be seen again in Europe until the age of master clockmakers? The first serious attempt to understand the mechanism comes from a British science historian named Derek John de Sola Price, a brilliant scholar who becomes completely obsessed with this ancient puzzle. Price encounters the mechanism in the early 1950s. While researching the history of scientific instruments, the moment he sees the corroded bronze gears, he realizes he's looking at something that could revolutionize our understanding of ancient technology. Price spends the next 2 decades of his life studying every visible detail of the mechanism, using the most advanced technology available to peer inside the corroded mass and trace the connections between the hidden components. In the 1970s, he gains access to early X-ray equipment, allowing him to create the first clear images of the internal structure. What these X-rays reveal makes Price realize that everything historians believed about ancient Greek technology is fundamentally wrong. The mechanism isn't just a simple collection of gears. It's a sophisticated analog computer designed to perform multiple astronomical calculations simultaneously with a precision that rivals modern instruments. The main drive wheel has exactly 235 teeth, and Price realizes this number is highly significant. It represents the Metonic cycle, a 19-year pattern that ancient astronomers discovered could be used to predict eclipses with remarkable accuracy. Other gear wheels correspond to different astronomical cycles: the lunar month, the solar year, the synodic periods of the known planets. The ratios between the gear wheels encode mathematical relationships that allow the device to model the complex motions of celestial bodies. This isn't just a clock or a simple calculator. It's a complete analog computer designed to predict the positions of the sun, moon, and planets years or even decades into the future. But here's where Price's investigation reveals something even more extraordinary about the capabilities of ancient Greek technology. The level of precision required to cut bronze gears with the exact number of teeth needed for these astronomical calculations shouldn't have been possible with the tools and techniques available in the ancient world. We're talking about gear wheels with hundreds of precisely spaced teeth, each one cut by hand to tolerances that would challenge modern machinists working with power tools and measuring instruments. The mathematical knowledge required to design such a system suggests the ancient Greeks understood astronomy and mechanical engineering at a level that historians thought was completely impossible. The device demonstrates knowledge of advanced concepts like differential gearing, precise gear ratios for astronomical cycles, and mechanical methods for modeling irregular celestial motions. These are engineering principles that wouldn't be rediscovered in Europe until the Renaissance. Price publishes his groundbreaking research in 1974, and the scientific world reacts with a mixture of amazement, skepticism, and genuine confusion. If Price is correct, then this single device proves that ancient Greek technology was not just decades but centuries ahead of anything historians had imagined. The implications go far beyond archaeology, challenging fundamental assumptions about the development of human knowledge and the nature of technological progress. But Price's research, revolutionary as it is, leaves many questions unanswered. His X-ray images, while groundbreaking for their time, are fuzzy and difficult to interpret. His gear counts are sometimes uncertain, based on fragmentary evidence and educated guesswork. Many of his conclusions about the device's function rest on theoretical reconstructions rather than direct observation. The mystery deepens rather than resolves, leaving the Antikythera mechanism as archaeology's most famous unsolved puzzle. For the next 30 years, the mechanism sits in its climate-controlled case at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, tantalizing researchers but guarding its secrets. The corroded bronze is too fragile for aggressive investigation, and the technology needed to see inside it clearly and map every component simply doesn't exist. It becomes a source of endless fascination for scientists, engineers, and historians, a device so advanced that it seems almost alien in its ancient context. Then, in the early 2000s, technology finally advances to the point where the mechanism's secrets can be fully revealed. A new international research team, led by mathematician Tony Freeth from University College London, gains permission to study the device using cutting-edge imaging technology that can peer through millennia of corrosion and map every hidden gear, every microscopic inscription, every detail of the internal structure. The team brings together experts from multiple disciplines: mathematicians, engineers, archaeologists, classicists, and computer scientists. They use advanced techniques, including high-resolution X-ray tomography, polynomial texture mapping for surface analysis, and 3D computer modeling to create the most detailed examination of an ancient artifact ever attempted. What they discover over the course of a decade-long investigation is even more incredible than Derek de Solla Price had imagined. The Antikythera mechanism isn't just an astronomical calculator, it's a complete analog computer designed to model the entire cosmos as the ancient Greeks understood it, incorporating centuries of astronomical observation from multiple civilizations and presenting this knowledge through an elegant mechanical interface that anyone could operate. The front face of the machine features a large bronze dial representing the zodiac and the Egyptian calendar, and two different systems of timekeeping integrated into a single display. Bronze pointers, driven by the internal gear trains, show the current positions of the Sun, Moon, and all 5 planets known to ancient astronomers: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The user could set the device to any date and immediately see where every celestial body would appear in the sky. But the back of the device reveals even more sophisticated functions that demonstrate the true genius of its ancient creators. The upper dial predicts eclipses with extraordinary accuracy, showing not just when eclipses will occur, but their specific characteristics. Will the eclipse be partial or total? What time of day will it happen? Will the moon appear red or dark during a lunar eclipse? What will be the magnitude and duration of the event? The lower dial on the back serves a completely different but equally fascinating purpose. It tracks the 4-year cycle of the Panhellenic Games, the great athletic festivals that brought together competitors from across the Greek world. This dial predicts when the Olympic Games will occur, when the Pythian Games at Delphi will be held, when the Isthmian and Nemean Games will take place, and in which cities these great festivals will be celebrated. The precision of the mechanism's calculations is absolutely staggering, demonstrating a level of astronomical knowledge that wouldn't be surpassed until the development of modern computers. The gear train that represents the lunar month is accurate to within 1 day over a period of 500 years. The eclipse prediction dial can forecast solar and lunar eclipses decades in advance, with an accuracy that rivals modern astronomical software. Most incredibly, the device includes what researchers call pin and slot mechanisms that compensate for the elliptical orbits of the moon and planets, accounting for the variations in their apparent speed as they move across the sky. This represents the same fundamental insight into orbital mechanics that Johannes Kepler wouldn't rediscover until 1609, over 1,600 years later. The ancient Greeks understood that celestial bodies don't move at constant speeds in perfect circles, and they built this knowledge into their mechanical computer. As Tony Freet's research team maps every component of the mechanism, they realize they're documenting technology that represents the absolute pinnacle of ancient Greek mechanical engineering. The device contains at least 82 individual bronze components, including more than 30 precisely cut gear wheels, all working together in perfect harmony to model the motions of the cosmos. The largest gear wheel in the mechanism has 223 teeth, each one hand-cut to exacting specifications that maintain precise mathematical ratios with all the other components. The smallest gears are barely larger than modern coins, yet they maintain the same level of precision as the larger components. The tolerances achieved by the ancient craftsmen are so tight that modern attempts to recreate the mechanism using hand tools have struggled to match the original's accuracy. But perhaps the most remarkable discovery made by the modern research team involves inscriptions hidden throughout the mechanism. Tiny Greek letters etched into the bronze that had been completely invisible until revealed by advanced imaging technology. These inscriptions represent nothing less than the world's first known instruction manual for a scientific instrument. The hidden text describes how to operate the machine, explaining what each dial shows and how to interpret the results. It includes detailed descriptions of astronomical phenomena, explanations of eclipse prediction methods, and even a kind of ancient troubleshooting guide for maintaining the device. The Antikythera mechanism wasn't just a scientific instrument created for a small group of expert astronomers. It was a consumer product designed to be used by educated Greeks who wanted to understand the movements of the heavens. The existence of this instruction manual has profound implications for our understanding of ancient Greek technology and society. If such detailed operating instructions were created, it suggests that multiple copies of the mechanism existed, perhaps representing an entire industry of precision instrument makers. The device might not be unique. It might represent a lost tradition of mechanical engineering that was once common throughout the Greek world. The inscriptions also reveal the international character of ancient science. The mechanism's eclipse prediction system is based on Babylonian astronomical observations accumulated over centuries of careful skywatching. The calendar system is purely Greek, while the mechanical design shows influences from both Greek and Hellenistic traditions. This device represents not just advanced technology, but advanced international collaboration, with ancient astronomers from different civilizations sharing their knowledge to create a machine that represents the best understanding of the cosmos from across the ancient world. The precision of the astronomical data encoded in the mechanism also reveals something profound about the nature of ancient Greek science. The Greeks who built this device knew the length of the lunar month to an accuracy of just 12 seconds per year, a measurement that requires decades of careful observation and mathematical analysis. They understood the Metonic cycle, the Saros cycle for eclipse prediction, the synodic periods of all the visible planets, and the complex orbital mechanics that govern celestial motions. What makes this achievement even more extraordinary is that all these calculations were performed without the benefit of modern mathematics. The ancient Greeks didn't have algebra, calculus, trigonometry, or even a concept of zero as a number. Yet they managed to encode incredibly complex astronomical relationships into a mechanical device using only geometry, basic arithmetic, and pure mathematical genius. The Antikythera mechanism represents a triumph of human ingenuity, achieving computational power through mechanical cleverness that rivals anything produced until the development of electronic computers. The device also reveals the sophisticated nature of ancient Greek manufacturing and the existence of precision industries that historians never suspected. To build this mechanism, its creators needed expertise in multiple specialized fields: astronomy, mathematics, metallurgy, precision machining, gear cutting, and mechanical engineering. They needed access to centuries of observational data from multiple civilizations. They needed the economic resources to support months or years of precision craftsmanship by master artisans. The Antikythera mechanism could only have been created in a society that highly valued knowledge, supported scientific research, maintained extensive international connections, and possessed manufacturing capabilities sophisticated enough to produce precision mechanical instruments. This suggests that ancient Greek civilization was far more technologically advanced than previously believed. with entire industries and knowledge traditions that have been completely lost to history. As researchers continue to study the mechanism using ever more advanced techniques, new discoveries keep emerging that add layers to an already incredible story. Recent analysis has revealed additional inscriptions that provide more details about the device's operation and the astronomical theories it embodies. New imaging techniques have uncovered previously hidden components that suggest the mechanism might have been even more complex than currently understood. Some researchers believe the original device might have included additional dials or displays that were lost when the mechanism broke apart during the ancient shipwreck. Others suggest that the visible mechanism might represent only part of a larger astronomical computer that included multiple coordinated devices. The possibility exists that we're looking at just a fragment of an even more sophisticated system. The story of the Antikythera mechanism also highlights the crucial role that chance and accident play in archaeological discovery. If Captain Kondos and his sponge diving crew hadn't been forced to take shelter from that October storm in 1900, if Elias Stadiatos hadn't made that particular dive, if the corroded bronze mechanism hadn't cracked open in the museum storage room, this incredible device might still be sitting on the Mediterranean seafloor, its secrets lost forever. The mechanism reminds us how much of the ancient world remains hidden beneath the waves, buried in the ground, or sitting unrecognized in museum collections around the world. Every archaeological discovery raises the possibility that our understanding of the past is incomplete, that ancient civilizations achieved things we never imagined possible, that human ingenuity and knowledge have been lost and found and lost again throughout history. But perhaps the most profound implication of the Antikythera mechanism is what it tells us about the nature of human achievement and the persistence of curiosity across the millennia. This device was built by people who lived over 2,000 years ago, people who worked by oil lamp and candlelight, who had never seen an electric motor or a computer processor, who calculated using pebbles and scratches in the sand. Yet these ancient engineers managed to create a machine that embodies principles of computation, precision manufacturing, and astronomical prediction that wouldn't be surpassed until the modern era. The mechanism stands as eternal proof that human ingenuity and curiosity can overcome any technological limitation, that the drive to understand the universe is one of our species' most fundamental characteristics. The discovery also challenges our assumptions about the linear progress of technology and human knowledge. We often think of advancement as a steady upward climb, with each generation building inevitably on the achievements of the previous one. But the Antikythera mechanism shows that progress can be lost as well as gained, that advanced civilizations can develop remarkable technologies and then see them disappear completely, leaving only mysterious artifacts to hint at what was once possible. This pattern of technological loss and rediscovery appears throughout human history. The Romans built concrete that lasted for millennia, then the formula was lost and not rediscovered until the modern era. Medieval Islamic scholars preserved and advanced Greek mathematical knowledge that Europe then forgot for centuries. The Antikythera mechanism represents perhaps the most dramatic example of this phenomenon, an entire tradition of precision mechanical engineering that vanished so completely that its very existence seemed impossible. Today, the Antikythera mechanism sits in its specially designed case at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, arguably the most scientifically significant artifact in their world-renowned collection. But its influence extends far beyond the museum walls, inspiring research in fields ranging from computer science to mechanical engineering to the history of astronomy. Several teams of researchers and craftsmen have built working replicas of the mechanism, using both ancient hand techniques and modern precision machining. These reconstructions prove definitively that the device really did work as researchers believe, that ancient Greek craftsmen really could achieve the precision necessary to make such a machine function accurately. The mechanism has also become a powerful symbol of the importance of preserving cultural heritage and supporting archaeological research. Without the dedicated work of scholars like Derek de Sola Price and Tony Freeth, without the investment in advanced imaging technology, without the international collaboration that made this research possible, the secrets of the Antikythera mechanism might have remained locked in corroded bronze forever. The story continues to unfold as new research techniques reveal additional secrets hidden in the ancient metal. Each new discovery adds to our understanding not just of this particular device, but of the entire civilization that created it. The Antikythera mechanism has become a window into a lost world of ancient science and technology, proof that our ancestors were capable of achievements that still amaze us today. As we conclude this incredible journey through one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, it's worth reflecting on what the Antikythera mechanism teaches us about the people who built it and the civilization that produced it. This device wasn't created by aliens or time travelers or any other supernatural explanation that some fringe theorists have proposed. It was built by human beings, working with bronze and wood and their own remarkable intelligence, driven by the same curiosity about the cosmos that motivates scientists today. The ancient Greeks who designed this mechanism looked up at the night sky and saw not chaos but order, not randomness, but predictable patterns that could be understood, calculated, and predicted. They invested enormous time, resources, and skill into building a machine that could forecast the future movements of celestial bodies, not for practical purposes like navigation or agriculture, but for the pure intellectual joy of understanding how the universe works. In that sense, the Antikythera mechanism represents the very best of human nature, our endless curiosity about the world around us, our drive to solve mysteries and understand complex systems, our determination to push the boundaries of what's possible with the tools and knowledge available to us. It reminds us that the urge to explore, discover, and understand is not a modern invention, but one of humanity's oldest and most persistent characteristics. The story of this remarkable device continues to unfold as new research techniques reveal additional secrets hidden in the corroded bronze. But even with everything we've learned, even with all the mysteries we've solved, the Antikythera mechanism keeps one final secret intact. It reminds us that we still don't know everything about our own past, and that incredible discoveries are still waiting to be made, and that the achievements of our ancestors might be far more remarkable than we ever dared to imagine. So the next time you look up at the night sky and see the moon and planets moving across the stars, remember the ancient Greeks who built a bronze computer to map and predict those same celestial motions. Remember that human curiosity and ingenuity can overcome any obstacle, that knowledge and understanding are treasures worth any sacrifice, and that the most incredible discoveries often come from the most unexpected places. The Antikythera mechanism stands as eternal proof that the past still holds mysteries capable of astonishing us, challenging our assumptions, and reminding us that the story of human achievement is far from over. In the end, perhaps that's the most important lesson this ancient computer teaches us. That wonder, curiosity, and the drive to understand our universe are timeless human qualities that connect us across the millennia to the brilliant minds who created this impossible machine over 2,000 years ago.